Okay, so when you think of Tokyo, what's the immediate picture? Is it uh, the neon lights, Shinjuku, maybe Asakusa, that kind of high-speed, maybe imperial history?
Yeah, usually. We definitely focus on the grand narrative, the
Yeah.
shoguns, the emperors, the big temples, the palaces, the official story.
But where's the other story? Where does the history of, like, the everyday people, the ones who just had to survive, actually hide?
That's the question, isn't it? And that's where we're heading today. We're looking at a place called Mizue Village, historically anyway. It's now part of Edogawa Ward, way out on the eastern edge of Old Edo.
Right, not exactly the center of power. It was more of a waterway farm village. Lots of agriculture tied into the river system.
Exactly. And, just across the river, you've got the really famous stuff. Tokuganji Temple, backed by Tokugawa Ieyasu himself. It's got national treasures, famous statues, incredible Edo art. That's the elite history.
Okay, so Tokuganji is the big star. Why look at Mizi then? If it was just a sort of overlooked village nearby, what's the draw? Why should someone visiting Tokyo even care about this periphery?
Well, because sometimes the places on the edge, they hold on to things better. Mizzou wasn't constantly being rebuilt or politically reshaped like the center was, so it kept this more, let's say, authentic feel. The things we find there, the little sites, the stories, they tell us about the showmen, the common folk, how they navigated these huge upheavals, political changes, religious crackdowns, even massive changes to the land itself over like 200 years.
So that's our mission today, to dive into maybe 5 of these stories, and the kind of hidden gems you can still see that tell that story of resilience.
Precisely. We want to unpack how this community managed to endure.
Okay, let's start. Story number 1 involves, wow, major political and religious shock, but the witness is actually alive. We're starting at Toyota Shrine in East Mizzou. This place itself sounds like a map of disruption.
Oh, it absolutely is. The shrine you see today. It wasn't always like this. It was created by forcing several smaller village shrines together, centralizing Shinto worship locally.
Okay.
But the location is key. They moved the consolidated shrine onto the land where a Buddhist temple, Chojuin, used to stand.
Ah, Chojugun. That rings a bell. It was abolished during the Meiji Restoration, right? The Haigutsu Kishaku.
Exactly. The forced abolition or separation of Buddhism. We hear the term, but imagine it on the ground. The government was pushing Shinto, trying to create a national ideology.
So basically, they wiped out the Buddhist temple.
They did, and then built the Shinto shrine right on top of its ashes, essentially. It's a physical scar from that ideological battle.
Yeah.
But look what's still there, the hidden gem.
The giant Zokova tree, the Goshinboku.
That's the one. It's huge, an official Edogawa natural monument. About 23 meters tall, 5 meters around, and it's old, maybe 200 years old.
So this tree, it was there through all of this.
Think about it. Late Edo period. The Meiji Restoration happens, the temple gets destroyed, the shrine gets built, then Taisho, Showa, Heisei, now Reiwa. 5 modern eras.
Oh, wow.
It's a living time anchor. It silently witnessed everything. The political shifts, the religious purging. It represents something deeper, right? A kind of natural divinity, a rootedness that human politics just can't fully erase.
Standing under that tree must feel significant, like touching that long history directly.
It really does. It puts human chaos into perspective.
Okay, moving from political survival to cultural survival. Story number 2. The Zen Ink legacy. This tackles the idea that Mizzou must have been some kind of cultural desert, right?
Yeah, that's the easy assumption. And farming village, far from the capital's hustle and bustle, surely they weren't into high art. But Daionji Temple, it's a quiet Zen place in Mizzou Forcome, tells us something else.
And the hidden gem isn't a building, it's an artwork.
Right. It's a painting scroll by Akita Kosan. He was an Edo painter, active in the early 19th century. And this scroll, held at Daionji, was only designated a district tangible cultural property very recently, in 2020.
2020. So why is finding this specific painting, this piece of Edo high art, in a small village temple so important?
Because it blows up the backwater idea. It proves Mizzou had, well, probably wealthy locals, landlords, maybe some gentry, people with the money and the interest to buy proper art from the capital.
So it wasn't just local crafts, they were plugged into the Edo art scene.
Seems like it. It shows a surprising cultural dynamism. Wealth and taste existed out there, pulling high culture away from the center. It shows Mizzou was connected.
That completely reframes it. Daionji becomes a spot for a kind of Zen and ink tour, showing how culture flowed even to the periphery.
Exactly. It demonstrates that taste, patronage, these things weren't just confined to the city center.
Okay, story 3. This one feels very grassroots. The Micro Fuji, or the story of folk faith. We know the Fuji pilgrimage cult, the Fujiko, was huge around here. Edogawa has a ton of these Fujizuka, these little replica mountains.
Yeah, something like 10% of all the Fujizuka in Tokyo are in this area. It shows just how important Mount Fuji was to the spiritual life of ordinary people for centuries.
And the gem here is a specific one, the Shimokamata Fujizuka. It's small, only about 3 meters high, and it's actually inside the Toyota Shrine grounds.
That's right. But the really interesting part is when it was built. 1916. That's Taisho 5.
1916. Why is that date significant?
Well, think about it. By 1916, Japan is deep into its modernization push.
Yeah.
The government's promoting national Shinto, industry, westernization, all that stuff. And yet, here's this local group.
The Shimokamata Waribishi Hachijoko. Quite a name.
This group itself was already over 200 years old. They decide, in 1916, to build a brand new Fujizuka. It's like an act of, well, maybe defiance, or just deep persistence.
So it's faith engineering, as you put it. How does building a small mound help people who can't travel?
It's a virtual pilgrimage. If you were too poor, too old, too sick to make the long, hard journey to the real Mount Fuji, you could climb this local version. You could achieve that same spiritual connection right there in your community.
Ah, okay. So it keeps the faith accessible.
And it keeps the community together around that shared belief. It ensures their spiritual world stays intact, even when the modern world is trying to push those old ways aside. It's a physical symbol of resilience.
Fascinating. Okay, speaking of spiritual maps getting messed up, Story 4 sounds like a real head-scratcher. The Lost Shikoku Pilgrimage Path. We're back at Toyota Shrine again on the grounds of the old Chojuin Temple.
Right, so remember Chojuin, the Buddhist temple that got destroyed?
Yeah, during the Haibutsu Kishaku.
Well, it turns out Chojuin was number 31 on a local pilgrimage route, the Minamikatsu New Shikoku 88 pilgrimage, a mini version of the famous Shikoku pilgrimage. When the temple was destroyed, stop number 31 just vanished from the map, left a hole.
Okay, that makes sense. A casualty of the purge. But the hidden gem here is confusing.
Extremely confusing, because inside the Toyota Shrine complex, the Shinto shrine, built on the ruins of the Buddhist temple, there's a stone pillar. And it's clearly marked as number 31.
Wait, marked as the Buddhist pilgrimage stop on the Shinto shrine's land.
Exactly. And look at the date inscribed on the pillar, 1910, Meiji 43.
1910. That's 40 years after Chojuin Temple was destroyed. What is going on there? Is it just a mistake?
It's more than a mistake. It's an amazing piece of historical repair, or maybe historical memory refusing to die. Local groups, like the Tokyo Kazanko, they just wouldn't let the pilgrimage route fade away.
So they just stuck the marker for the Buddhist stop onto the Shinto shrine grounds decades later?
Pretty much. It's this incredibly determined, slightly muddled attempt to keep the spiritual map intact. They anchored a Buddhist tradition onto Shinto land because the place, the location, still held that memory for them.
Wow, that turns a simple visit into a kind of history detective game, doesn't it? Trying to figure out why this stone is here, against all logic.
It really does. It shows how hard local communities work to sort of stitch their sacred geography back together after the official structures were torn down. Incredible tenacity.
Okay, final story. Story number 5 takes us into the 20th century. Modernization, but this time it's not religion, it's engineering. The Konomiya Shrine and the Arakawa Diversion Channel.
Yes, this is about a massive physical shock to the landscape. The Arakawa Diversion Channel was a huge national project in the early 20th century, absolutely necessary to control the terrible flooding that plagued this low-lying area.
But big infrastructure projects always have local consequences.
Always. This channel literally cut through old communities, redrew boundaries, changed how people lived and moved. It physically reorganized the whole Mizue area.
And the hidden gem reflecting this is Konomiya Shrine.
That's right. Konomiya Shrine was the guardian shrine for the old Konomiya village. It was either rebuilt or maybe newly established in 1937. Showa 12.
Why 1937?
That date is significant because it marks the community formally adapting its spiritual center to the new reality created by the diversion channel. The old village structure was gone, replaced by this massive feat of modern engineering.
So the shrine's relocation or rebuilding is a direct response to that national project.
Exactly. It signals Mizue's transition from that stable Edo period village framework into a modern suburb, having to reorganize itself, spiritually and socially, because of state-driven development. It makes you think about the trade-offs, right? What local culture gets sacrificed or reshaped when big national projects come through.
It's a story about adaptation in the face of overwhelming change.
Absolutely. How communities have to find new anchors when the old ones are literally washed away or dug up.
Okay, so let's pull these 5 stories together. We've got the ancient tree surviving religious purges, the unexpected high art in a village temple, the small defiant mountain, the strangely dated pilgrimage stone, and the shrine moved by modern engineering. What's the connecting thread for someone visiting today?
The thread is resilience, but a complex kind. It shows how this community on Tokyo's edge dealt with everything thrown at it: nature's threats, government policies, religious shifts, massive construction.
Yeah.
It wasn't always neat or logical like that 1910 stone shows,
Right.
but it paints a picture of the Minkensation, that folk spirit, that deep attachment to place, to tradition, even when things get messy. It's the real layered soul of Tokyo, beyond the official monuments.
So for you listening, this isn't just sightseeing, it's like becoming a co-resonator with history. We've sort of laid out an itinerary for you, haven't we?
Kind of a time traveler path, yeah. You could start with quiet reflection at Daiyunji, looking at that Aikida Koppen scroll, thinking about culture flow.
Then head to Toyota Shrine, get the huge Zelkova tree, the little Fujizuka, and that mystery pilgrimage stone all in one place. A real concentration of history.
And maybe finish at Konomiya Shrine, seeing how the community adapted to the modern geography imposed by the Arakawa Channel. It connects the older sites to the 20th century reality.
It makes the history tangible. You're walking through these layers of adaptation.
That's the key. Mizu's story is about surviving geographically, adapting culturally, and just refusing to let go of its spiritual map, even if it meant putting things in slightly odd places. It transforms how you see a seemingly quiet neighborhood.
Which brings us to a final thought. It really makes you appreciate how much compromise and maybe even confusion goes into creating historical continuity. It's not a clean line.
Not at all. It's often a patchwork, stitched together with tenacious faith and local memory, especially in these places that look unassuming on the surface.
So maybe the challenge for you, the listener, is to look for those little glitches in the matrix in your own town or city.
Exactly. Find the small things that don't quite fit the modern narrative. The oddly dated stone, the building that seems out of place, the tradition that persists against the odds. Those are the places where the real, deep, resilient story often lies hidden.